All right, back again. Another video from Kuandaa. I'm Chad and the July team leader. And so we are going to talk about church planting. Now, on these trips, you will not be doing any actual church planting, right? Let me just throw that out there. I know you're bummed. You were hoping to go village to village, door to door, preaching the gospel and starting a church on Sunday, which, if we're honest, is exactly how our Ugandan friends do it. They will literally go into a village, and that Sunday they will be opening a church. So when we talk about church planting on our teams, we are there, we do the training piece, okay? But the church planting piece that we participate in actively is the welcoming of new churches, the opening of new churches, blessing churches, visiting and encouraging them, okay? So for the most part, when we are participating with our church plants, what we are there to do is really one of two things. The first thing that we go to church plants for is to help them open. They like to have the ceremony and the celebration moment, right? As most churches would when they open up a new church. And so many times we'll be invited to these moments where we get to come and share a word of encouragement, share the gospel, and essentially christen a new church. And so those moments will be very fun. You'll find that they are very energetic because people are stoked that they have a church to worship with, that they are worshiping God together. And so those moments are often the highlights of our trip because we get to come and there's singing and there's dancing and there's celebration, and it is the purest joy of the Lord you'll ever experience. So that's piece one, is we get to go and we get to open new churches. The other piece, which is very similar, is that we get to visit churches that have already been opened in the last year since we have visited last, and we get to encourage them. Now, this is a very, very similar setup. When you pull up, there will be people dancing, there will be people yelling and shouting and singing, and it's going to be a great time. Everyone will want to shake your hand and thank you for coming and bless the Lord. And so when we go in for those moments, our whole goal in being there is simply to visit, to bring a word from the Lord, to pray for the sick, to just be a moment of encouragement and joy in their world as well, to encourage them. Some of our church plants have experienced discouragement on a regular basis, especially because they are in villages where Islam is everywhere. You know, Islam, it makes a lot of inroads in Uganda, especially out in the brush. You'll find that there are many, many mosques. And so when we go in, we're trying to encourage them, to empower them, to equip them to lay hands, to pray, and really just be a voice of good in their lives. And so these church plants are a lot of fun, right? Whether you're opening them or just coming for encouragement. Sometimes we're doing trainings there, but they're a lot of fun because they're full of new Christians. They're full of people who love the Lord. They are full of people who want to see the kingdom advanced and are actively working to make that happen. So it's a little bit different than when you're in the U.S. visiting a new church, because I feel like in the U.S. you're never quite sure what to expect, right? Like you're like, is this church going to be a little more charismatic? Is this church going to be welcoming? You know, you're asking these questions as you're coming in. In Uganda, you just expect that this church is going to be hopping, right? It doesn't matter where it is or who's there or how many people are there. It's going to be awesome. And so these visits to the church plants, our main goal there is to encourage and build up, to pray, and to just be Jesus in that place. And so those moments will be really good. I encourage you to participate fully in those things. They are very big on giving gifts in those places, and it can be a little bit awkward, I think, because for Americans, we come in knowing very well that they don't have a lot of money, and yet they still insist on giving us gifts. Often it's sodas, it's waters. If in some places, especially on new church plants, I've been personally gifted 4 roosters now, so I'm sure that those were in someone's belly at some point in the last couple of years. But I've been gifted these roosters. I've been gifted baskets. I mean, you name it. They do crafts, and so they're very thankful. They're grateful to have you here, and they just love that you would come visit them. You know, and especially when we get out further, they don't meet a lot of people. especially white people from the U.S., right? So I want you to know that those moments are going to be very fun. The expectations of you as a trip participant is to simply participate in those moments, to be an active part of it, and to just be as encouraging as possible. We're not going to ask, we will most likely not ask any of you to prepare any sort of message or anything. Now, if you get something from the Lord in those times and you want to share, you are by means, you are more than welcome to share. But we're not necessarily expecting you to prepare a, I'm here from the Lord, kind of moment. Honestly, your trip team leader will most likely be that person. Dewey and I both plan on those moments to share and to share the vision of Kuandaa, to share our joy with them and our love and our prayers. So that's what you should expect when we go to visit church plants. You should expect that most of the churches from a logistical side will be a smaller, I would say 30 to 60. And I would also say that you should expect them to not be the buildings you would expect in the U.S. Many of our church plants, if they're a little more mature and grown up a little bit and been around a little while, they may have what they call a temporary structure, which is where they have like columns all the way along using beams of wood, and then they have metal roof. Or if they're an early church plant, often it's in somebody's house. It's they meet under a mango tree. They meet wherever they can to worship Jesus. So be prepared that when we talk about church, we're talking about the actual church. We're not talking about buildings and specific locations. We're talking about people being the church, people living as disciples of Jesus. That's who we're going to go visit. So that's why I say it's awesome, because these people love Jesus. They want to see his kingdom built in every place, and they are just so excited to see us. So that's what you should expect when you go to visit church plants. You should bring some energy and be ready to party, because it is fun. All right, so look forward to that, because it's going to be awesome.